We're making decisions that are going to save us thousands of dollars by choosing a more intentional industrial design. Originally, we had planned to put drywall over these walls, but we're going to leave them just like this. Here we are, week 3 of converting this 1970s office building here in Louisville into a residential style boutique hotel. And we finally got the second floor finished. We'll probably be back up here for a couple other things. We'll get to that later, but they started working on the first floor this week and they made a ton of progress. This week, our contractor Steve and I were discussing whether or not to keep these CMU block walls as is or move forward with the blueprint plans that show them having drywall put on them. I really like the idea of leaving them like this. It really fits with the industrial theme, and then we would have exposed metal conduit for the electrical outlet switches, down below for the plugs, and also the chandeliers that would hang. I think it would give a really cool industrial look. So I think that's what we're gonna go with. A big consideration with keeping the walls block or putting drywall over them came down to, will it feel homey enough? And if it doesn't feel homey enough with these walls, does the industrial theme feel slightly manufactured when you get in here instead of authentic? That was another reason I decided I wanted to go with these, just for authenticity. And we have a couple little sections in here that have paint on the block already. What we'll do once we've got the new windows in and whatever is left, we will cut in with the unit color to cover this blue. I believe it's supposed to be green, and it should look awesome. Along all these CMU block walls that you're seeing here on the second floor, these will get windows cut in them, like I've mentioned before, for the front of the units. Right now, we're trying to figure out the best way to reduce the cost of those windows because there's so many of them. So we're trying to find the balance between the structural engineering requirements, the masonry work, and the actual cost of the window. We're trying to value engineer those three into the best looking, lowest price solution. Our HVAC saga is continuing. We've got a bid back from our preferred vendor that is now on budget, and that vendor has told us that they cannot change the system up and go with a cheaper system, that it's not available to them. Our alternate bid, we've asked them to find a different system that is cheaper than what they originally quoted to give us as many options as possible on this project. And they're quoting it, and they think that they can get the price down significantly. We're pursuing 2 different choices of HVAC unit systems in this building. One is a 3-part VRF system that would heat and cool multiple units. That would mean that if parts broke, multiple units would be down. And then the other system is a traditional system that has 8 individual systems for the 8 individual units. The problem with that is we have 2.5 times as many systems, and that means 2.5 times as many things that can break. But when something does break, it only takes down 1 unit instead of multiple. So we're trying to weigh the risk-reward price, a lot like the windows that we're working through here with the HVAC thing, and hope by next week we have a final solution. Little personal thing that happened this week. My father is really big into reduce, reuse, recycle. And he's taught us that since kids. You'll see there's a lot of stuff we're trying to save in here. Dad came in a couple weeks ago and removed all of the handrails, thinking he could either sell them, send them to scrap, something besides just put them in a dumpster. Well, turns out somebody caught that we didn't have handrails in these stairwells that are going to be used here soon. And that's a big violation. So the handrails are going back in, and luckily we saved those in the shipping container and did not put them in a dumpster. So big win there. Didn't know that. Dad didn't know that, and we'll see what happens. In the past few weeks, we've talked multiple times about trying to save these floors, get them cleaned up, get them back to concrete to really show the character and not put the LVT floors down. Well, when I was in Pittsburgh this past week visiting my friend Allie, she showed us around a couple of her industrial properties, that one specifically that she had turned into a climbing gym. And the floors were left bare concrete, and all they did was strip up the old flooring, and they left the trowel marks from the glue and just sealed over it. And it looked really cool, and it inspired me to push this concept to keep these floors even further. So they did this section here, and I think it looks pretty good. It's got a couple of good trowel marks in it that are interesting. Once they get the floors to a good stage, Steve and I are gonna find a section and go through and actually put the sealant on it to make sure it sticks and performs like we expect it through over a couple of months before we do the entire place. Steve and I were at the back of the property this week checking some things out, and Steve noticed that the framing for the windows was still in where these HVAC units are coming out, and also noticed that this window here had glass in it. And he pushed me in a good way. Are you sure you want to take those windows out? And instead of doing glass block, we could leave those in and just frost those over like we're going to do the front doors. Well, the more I looked at it, I think Steve's right. So what Steve and I talked about was leaving these frames in, leaving that glass in, keeping these frames that we already have over here. So all we have to do is buy new glass and do the frosting on them. And that'll be a big win, because Steve was telling me it's getting more and more difficult to find glass block since it's out of style. I noticed that the storefront was going to be the same color that we decided to change the windows to, because we're going to paint the entire building black, except for this limestone. That'll stay. And I asked him, well, do we really need to replace this whole section and all this glass? Is that necessary? Or can we just replace the frame that the door is in? And Steve kind of liked that idea and thought, yeah, why not? We can keep everything here and just remove the door. So we're gonna do that here. That's another little savings. I think what I saw was like $19,000 or $20,000 for this assembly, just the storefront glass. So hopefully that'll save us a little bit of money. The demo crew this week spent the first couple of days removing the ceiling tiles. They needed to get the south wall of the building fully exposed by Tuesday, because our structural engineer and shoring company that are going to shore up the stairwells will be here to investigate on the best way to do it now that everything's exposed. This is one of the stairwells that's going to be removed from the building. Right now it's a structural element of the building, and the structural engineer was not fully clear, because the space was occupied and it had a ceiling in it, how these concrete tees were supported on these concrete block walls. Same thing with the elevator tower. Wow, dog. Check us out next week. We'll be a full month into this project. Can't wait to show you what we got going, and it should be pretty cool when they start demoing these structural walls and the elevator to take those out. And then we're on to digging in the parking lot, getting our new elevator tower built, and lots more exciting things. So like and subscribe, stick with me. Thanks for watching.